Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Church History Project podcast. This is Jared Luchabor, and it's good to be talking to you again. I know it's been a while since our last episode, so I wanted to take a few moments to connect with you and share some updates and give you a glimpse into what's ahead for the podcast. First off, I want to thank all of you who have been faithfully listening and supporting the show. Whether you've been with me from the beginning or you've recently discovered the Church History Project, your support and enthusiasm for this narrative journey through the history of the church really means the world to me. It's a real joy to be able to produce these episodes, to craft them, to produce them, to upload them, and enjoy you all listening to them and to hear your feedback. So means the world to me. I just want to let you know that. But let me also start by addressing just a little bit of an elephant in the room. And I think that's the gap between episodes. As much as I love creating this podcast and exploring the stories and milestones of church history with you, life sometimes has a way of slowing things down. And so as many of you know, I have a wonderful wife, 2 young boys, a family who is a big part of my life. I also work full-time as the Director of Marketing at Mid-America Reformed Seminary. And so balancing work, family responsibilities, and creative projects like this podcast is always a delicate dance. And if I'm honest, these past weeks have been particularly full and challenging. So between work commitments, family life, and some other things that I'll share more about in a moment, I think time has been in short supply. But I also want to acknowledge the importance of quality over quantity. So each episode of this podcast is carefully researched and crafted to bring you accurate, engaging, and meaningful content. And so I'd rather take the time to get it right than rush through it just to meet a deadline. So I hope you understand that, and I truly appreciate your patience. Now, on to some other exciting things. What's next for the show? Well, I've been doing a lot of planning ahead in the direction of the podcast. And so I think one of the things that is on the horizon, of course, is jumping into a series on the Apostolic Fathers. Now, if you remember, I didn't really mention it in the first, what I would have normally have called the first half of season 2. I would have normally have said that, the Apostolic Fathers were going to be the second half of season 2. But I think with the time crunch and the gap in between episodes and where we're at right now, it's looking more likely that the Apostolic Fathers could very well be more or less the beginning of season 3. And that would actually comprise 8 episodes. So if you really think of TV shows, I guess even just TV shows today, whether on streaming services like Netflix or Disney Plus, you get most shows are typically arranged in 6 to 8 episodes. And I think that's a trajectory that I'd like to aim for, at least when it comes to seasons. I think that's healthy. It's healthy for me when it comes to time and the production of the show. And so wanting to apprise you of that the Apostolic Fathers are next, beginning with Clement of Rome, then Ignatius of Antioch, the Didache, Shepherd of Hermas, Polycarp, so on and so forth. But the episodes for that will comprise season 3 of the show, and I would hope that those would start to populate within the next few months, hopefully sooner. And so that is what's on the horizon when it comes to episodes and their release. Now, one area that I'm also particularly excited about is wanting to create study guides and resources to accompany the podcast. I've been thinking about how the Church History Project could be a valuable tool, not just for individual listeners, but also for small groups, whether at church or in the home. Now, these resources would include discussion questions, maybe timelines, key takeaways, and deeper dives into the topics covered in each episode. My hope is that these guides would help foster meaningful conversations and encourage deeper learning about church history in a group setting. So whether you're part of a Bible study, a home fellowship, or just simply gathering with friends and family, I want this podcast to be a resource that equips and inspires you and others to explore our shared history and in community. And to make these resources sustainable and to allow me to dedicate the necessary time and energy to their development, they will be available as a paid resource. And so by offering guides like that as a premium option, not only will you gain access to what I would consider to be a valuable tool for group study, but you'll also be supporting the podcast financially. And that's going to help me continue to create high quality content and to expand the reach of the show even further. So if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I do value your feedback. It helps shape these resources, and I want to make sure that they meet your needs as well. Well, that brings me to something I'd love your help with. As much as I enjoy creating this podcast, it's even more rewarding when it's a two-way conversation. And so if you haven't already, I encourage you to connect with me on social media. There's a private Facebook community group that you can join. Just type in the search bar in Facebook, the Church History Project community, where you can join and be received, where there is vibrant conversation and discussion, not just on current podcast episodes, but just on church history and theology in general. You can also find the Church History Project podcast on X. So search for that there and join me on X as well. You can also check out my Buy Me a Coffee profile that I recently created. You can find the link for that in the latest episode on Spotify. You can also find it on my X, the Church History Project podcast's X profile as well. It's just another avenue to support the podcast financially. So it's a great way to help keep the project going and growing. I'd also love for you to share the podcast with your friends, family, or anyone you think might enjoy exploring church history, especially in the way that it's produced in this narrative style. Word of mouth is one of the best ways for podcasts like this to reach new audiences, and so your recommendations make all the difference. And finally, if you enjoy the podcast, I really encourage you to leave a review, whether that's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's an incredible way to help others discover the show. When ratings go up, visibility increases. And so I'm grateful for every review and piece of feedback you've shared so far. And so as I wrap up this update, I want to thank you once again for being part of the journey. Your support, encouragement, and enthusiasm for church history inspire me to keep going, even when things get busy or challenging. This podcast really is a labor of love, and I'm very grateful to have a community of listeners like you who share that love for the incredible story of God's work throughout history. So I'm excited to get back into the swing of things and bring you more episodes soon, Lord willing. In the meantime, stay tuned, stay curious, stay connected. Thank you for your patience, your prayers, and your continued support. Until next time, this is Jared Luchbor with the Church History Project. Thank you for listening. God bless.